Welcome to another episode of the And Now I Know podcast. I'm your host, 32 Flavors, and I'm here to inspire you to live life at your fullest potential. If you're looking for a podcast that's going to inspire you to chase your dreams, motivate you to get up each and every day, and help you navigate life just a little bit better, be sure to hit that subscribe button if you watch it on YouTube. And if you're listening on any streaming platform, be sure to hit that follow button because we need that money. I'm talking Spotify. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, wherever you're listening to, please be sure to hit that follow button and don't forget to follow us on all platforms at And Now I Know Podcast. Now today, um, I'm excited to be back here talking to you guys because I have been gone for the past 2 weeks. I've been doing a lot of filling my cup spiritually, mentally, um, physically, right? So if you guys follow me on my 32 Flavors page, and also I posted this on the And Now I Know podcast Instagram, I recently just came back from two separate spiritual filling events, right? So the first one I went to was in Chicago. I went to go see Jackie Hill Perry and her husband, Preston Perry, and they had an amazing show, right? So it was a live podcast, and essentially they were just talking about being good stewards, being good disciples, and just how to be a better Christian and walk this walk better, right? So I love that I felt fed and I felt like leaving that podcast show super inspired. And that's something in a place that I would love to be, touring the world or touring the states with my podcast. So I'm super, super inspired by that. And then next is going to be, I went to, if you guys are familiar with Pastor Keon Henderson, he is located in Houston and I love him. Okay. I listen to his sermons on YouTube because obviously I'm not based out of Houston, but I went to the Cry Out Conference 2024. His first one was last year, and they said the people who went last year, they said that this year was even more, feeling and just better than it was the year before. So I'm excited that I got the opportunity and just God blessed me to be able to even get up and go and pause on my business. And yes, y'all, I saw Deion Sanders. I saw Charlamagne the God. I saw Ty Tribbett, Fred Hammond, all of the greats. And again, if you guys follow me on my 32 Flavors page, I showed little clips and I showed a couple videos of me kicking it. And so, yes, y'all, I feel very fed. It is very hard doing this work. What I mean by this work, I mean, inspiring people and, you know, giving people wisdom and giving people motivation. It's not an easy job because it's all with the mind. And if you guys are in tune, you know that the devil tries to attack your gifts. The devil tries to attack things that he knows is going to get you closer to God or bring people closer to God or get you walking in your purpose. So I feel like I have to take a lot of time or dedicate a lot of time to myself, and I have to do a lot of feeding because I do a lot of pouring, right? And not only am I, running my podcast, doing my motivational content, doing my regular content for TikTok and YouTube and things like that, I still run my business, Angelic Eyes, and I still service clients. And I'm going to keep servicing clients until God says, hold on, girl. Right? So I am just excited to be back talking to you guys. And obviously, like I said, I've been very inspired. So I felt it was only right to talk about purpose brings peace, or peace comes from purpose. However, you want to remix it. Today, I want to talk about how living in your purpose brings you peace. So, if you are somebody who is trying to find their purpose, somebody who is working on their peace, somebody who is working on, just continuously being purpose driven, because it's not an easy thing to do, this is the episode for you, right? And so, I was thinking the other day, I was actually on a live. If you follow me on Instagram at 32 Flavors, I go on live in the morning at 7:30 a.m. Central Time. And something came across my mind. And I was thinking, are we really at peace if we aren't living in our purpose? Like, are we really, really at peace? And I didn't know and understand fully what peace was until I started working and acting in my purpose, living in my purpose, right? So I'm gonna give you guys an example. obviously I still run my lash business, right? And at a point in time, I believe that doing lashes and running my business was very filling. It made me feel really good. But at the place that I'm in now, if I'm comparing it, even though I'm still doing it, I'm actually living in my purpose. And the peace that comes from that is overflowing. And let me elaborate. When I'm making my motivational content, when I'm making the inspiring content, when I'm encouraging people, when I'm talking to people even outside of my platforms and giving encouraging words and things of that nature, I feel so filled. I feel like I can do that over and over and over again. I could do it for free. I can volunteer myself, right? I can work overtime, OT, when it comes to walking in my purpose. But when it comes to doing things such as lashes, I believe that, of course, lashing can be a form of income and it obviously helps pay the bills. But when I go home at night, I feel tired. I feel a little bit drained. I feel like if a client rubs me the wrong way or if a client doesn't follow the policies, I can get easily, I'm not going to say easily agitated. I guess it depends on the day, but I can kind of get a little annoyed. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to my purpose, right? And I guess maybe that can change as I continue to grow and my platform continues to expand. But people can write me all day long about how can I start living a purpose driven life? How can I start getting disciplined? What are some things you do to stay motivated? Like, I can answer those questions all day long. I can pour into people in that way all day long, and I don't feel like something was taken away from me. And I guess that's because God is with me on this walk, on this journey, on this purpose driven path that I'm on, right? So ask yourself, am I really at peace? Am I really living in my purpose? Because I think a lot of times we think that just because it makes us money, just because we are successful, that we are living in our purpose, right? But then when you dig deeper in that, let me use me for example. Just because it makes you money, that doesn't mean that it's for you or that's what God wants you to do. Some things are hobbies and some things are gifts. Some things are or for your purpose, right? And I know that using my mouth, using my words is God's gift, right? The gift of wisdom, right? Because I understand that not everybody is able to do what I do or do what, the other motivational speakers do. And so again, ask yourself, am I really like living in my purpose? And if not, why not? And maybe you asking me, or maybe you want to ask me, how can I start living in my purpose? That's something that you're going to have to pray to God about. Because one thing I know for sure is that if you are living in your God-given purpose, you are going to need God in order to fulfill that purpose, in order to get up every day. Okay, because you always work 20 times harder when you work living in your purpose. Your purpose is not easy. Purpose, you have to serve others. When you living in your purpose, you're not just working for you. It's not just for your benefit, right? And so a lot of times too, when you are walking or working in your purpose, you are also bringing people closer to him as well, right? Because again, it's all for his glory. So a lot of times, again, you can't fulfill your purpose without him. So you find yourself oftentimes sharing his glory and sharing how good God is and how God is carrying you through your walk, through your purpose walk. Okay. So again, just because it's making you money and just because you feel like you are successful with what you're doing, that does not mean that that is your God-given purpose. And that's why a lot of people are walking around unhappy or not feeling satisfied because, yes, you might be doing a good job in whatever you're doing, but it's not what God called you to do. And I believe and I know that God has put us on this earth to fulfill our purpose. Like he wants us to live in the overflow. He wants us to live these amazing lives. And that doesn't mean you won't have any storms or tests or trials, but God wants us to live in abundance, okay? And so I feel like when I started, I always say that But when I started walking in my purpose, y'all, it just gave me a different sense of peace that I never felt before. Like I can literally sit and talk to y'all all day long. Like I keep saying, like I can do this every day. I get up every morning, y'all, and it's not easy. I probably make it look easier than what it is, but I'm getting up, I'm motivating, even on days when I don't feel like it, even on days where I have stuff going on. I continue to show up and walk in my purpose because God is holding my hand through it all, and it's just so fulfilling. So ask yourself, are you really fulfilled with what you're doing? And if not, I'm here to encourage you and to let you know that once you start walking in your purpose, you're going to walk different. You're going to talk different. You're going to move different. Okay? Purpose is going to bring you increase. Purpose is going to bring you, again, peace. And let me go back on that increase point. I think oftentimes we always worry about, like, is this gonna make us money? Is this gonna make us money? When you start walking in your purpose, you might not always see the almighty dollar, the green cash flow pouring in. Some of you who are walking in your purpose, you might, but purpose is supposed to be, you got to think longevity, long term when it comes to purpose, right? When you thinking about hobbies and little gifts and skills that you have, that's short term, right? Because the happiness and the peace only lasts for so long. The happiness that I had when I first started my business is not the same level of happiness that I have now. Okay? But don't always think about the money, because it's not always about the money, because when you walking in your purpose, God gonna make sure you are overflowing and your cup is filled with everything that you need. Period. Right? And so again, I want to encourage you that is listening right now or watching, if you're watching on YouTube right now, to start thinking about, am I living in my purpose? And you will know by how you feel, right? Are you at peace? Are you feeling fulfilled when you finish working at the end of the day? And I'm not saying quit your day job or quit your 9 to 5 or whatever your main source of income because you want to go, start chasing your dreams and living in your purpose. That's not what I'm saying, because I am still, like I said, running my shop, but I'm going to keep running it until God say, okay, this is finished. Another thing I want to point out and say is that when you're walking in your purpose, God will fill you with the resources that you didn't think that you had or that you feel like you might not have. Like I have thoughts to myself all the time, like, girl, if you want to turn your whole life around right now, God has given you the resources. But sometimes we operate in fear because our inner child or our younger self or our self right now, our present self, we might feel like, do I deserve this? Am I capable of this? If you are struggling with feeling fulfilled, I want to encourage you to ask yourself, am I living in my purpose? And if you are not, how can you start? How can you start? And it all starts with, you're going to have to pray, because again, your God-given purpose, you're not going to be able to do it without him. He's going to have to give you the resources that you ain't think you had. He's going to have to connect you with the right people, put you in the right rooms. It's not going to be all you're doing. Now, faith without works is dead, but you're going to have to put in some effort to work with God, so that way you guys can, you can walk on your purpose properly, okay? So I really hope, if you're listening right now, I really hope that this podcast is motivating you and uplifting you. And I want to share with anybody watching and listening that if you have a dream, if you have a vision in your mind, go for it. If you have something in your gut that you feel like is pressing and pressing and pressing on you, let me tell you something. That's God trying to connect with you and talk to you. And right now, what you're doing, it could be making you money, or it could not be making you money, or you might not be feeling fulfilled right now. I'm telling you, it's because you're not walking in your purpose. If you are moving around and you feel like you don't need to rely on God to help get you through whatever you're working on or whatever you're doing right now, it might not have God in it, right? So in order to go far, in order to be in those rooms you never imagined, in order to network with the people that you never thought you would, in order to receive the increase financially that you never saw yourself ever receiving in your whole entire life, you're going to have to team up with God. You're going to have to get connected with him, because he's going to point you in the direction in which you should be going. And I'm speaking from experience, y'all. So many things have happened. So many people have, reached out. People that I never would have even thought acknowledged my content, y'all. I never saw myself, really speaking in this capacity on my platforms. And so it's just amazing how far God has taken me, and all the credit goes to Him. That's why I mention Him in every single podcast, because without Him, you guys wouldn't even be hearing me. But if you have a dream out there, if you are a visionary, go for it. Collab with God. Make sure that you have Him at the center of it all, because He gonna make sure things flow the right way. Okay, and there's no better timing than His timing. So just know that everything is gonna come into fruition. You just gotta stay patient. You gotta stay down. You gotta trust the process, y'all. This is not an easy thing, living in your purpose. But like I said in the beginning, and I've been saying throughout, it's gonna bring you so much peace. So I hope this episode inspires you. And I always end off with the "and now I know" segment. And now I know that God has to be at the center of all of your plans. I think a lot of times I thought that I could do it myself, because if you're anything like me, I've always been independent. I've always been self-sufficient. I've always been a hustler and ambitious. But that was a me thing. That was a ego thing, right? And that's great to have those character traits, but not when you don't have God involved, okay? And not when you don't realize that God is the reason why everything is happening. And sometimes you can kind of get this complex when you keep hearing the yeses and you keep making things happen and everything is just working out for you in your business, right? And so yeah, now I know I have to keep God at the center, or it's not going to be right. And He has to be at the center of my relationships, my friendships, my business, my platforms. Like, He has to be at the center, or it might work for a while, but it will not work long term. And I'm thinking long term. I'm thinking generational wealth. I'm thinking my future family. Okay, I want my kids, God willing, if I'm supposed to have some, to look like and say, my mom was chasing her dreams. My mom inspired me to live in my purpose and make sure God was present. Because any moment where I got in the way of that, it did not work out. Literally. Or I just wasn't satisfied or fulfilled. And who wants to go around living an unfulfilled life? So ask yourself, again, I done probably told y'all to ask yourself something 5 times, but ask yourself, am I living in my purpose? What is my purpose? Because a lot of times we think we know. Some of y'all are working harder than you actually have to work, because God has given you these gifts and these talents that could take you so far, but you have decided, nah, that ain't gonna work, or nah, that's not for me. Everybody has a gift. Everybody has a talent, but a lot of people are not living in their gifts that God gave them. So let Him use you. I'm gonna encourage you to let Him use you. And shout out to those who are walking in their purpose right now. And shout out to those who are figuring it out. But especially shout out to those who are living in their purpose, because speaking from my own experiences, it's not an easy walk. It's not an easy journey. And on the flip side of that, it's very rewarding. It's very filling. And I know you know. So thank you for watching another episode of the "And Now I Know" podcast with 32 Flavors. I hope you guys are filled listening to this podcast. I hope you are encouraged, and I hope you feel loved right now. And if you are going through any storm, test, or trial, let this podcast be an example and a representation that God's knows, God's rejection is redirection. Okay, I've experienced a heavy storm a few months ago, and I can see the sunshine. And a lot of times we need to hear people saying, like, okay, there's sunlight at the end of this. So I hope you guys tune in to the next episode, because we got a very special guest coming extremely soon. I don't want to give it away. I don't want to tell y'all who, but I'm excited for what's to come with the podcast, and I'm looking forward to chatting it up with y'all. Don't forget to follow me again at "And Now I Know" podcast at 32 Flavors, and subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow on any streaming platform. And I hope you have an amazing day. I don't know what time of the day you're listening to this, but I hope you have an amazing day or a great night. See you next time.